today to prove to her that he is the father of her child, and he shares his story.
Mr. Kidd, you say Ms. Rawlings convinced you that you were the father of her son, then changed her mind when someone better came along. Rawlings' mind games have wreaked emotional havoc, and you are 100% positive you are her son's father. Ms. Rawlings, you say Mr. Kidd is fully aware, as he himself told you he cannot have children. You intend to prove them wrong today.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Rawlings tells her part of the story and explains the way their relationship began, and shares that she also met another man.
Did you tell him it was his child?
No, Your Honor. How it happened was we met through a mutual friend. Our mutual friend ended up leaving. I didn't have anywhere to go. That's how me and Mr. Kidd ended up. As everything progressed, somehow another female came into the picture, and it was dealing with him and another gentleman also.
What was your relationship with this man like?
A serious relationship. Once I left from there, I was actually staying with him.
How often were you with the other guy?
Pretty much going back and forth. I was leaving from Mr. Kidd to going with him and coming back.
Mr. Kidd's mother also steps in to share her thoughts.
Jenkins, when did you find out about the baby?
The mid of August.
And at that time, were you aware that your son was in a relationship with Ms. Rawlings?
We've never been in a relationship.
It was an encounter? So that's what we call a sexual relationship, where you have sex, but you have no commitment. So, Ms. Jenkins, how do you find out about the baby?
And she said, Mom, you need to look at this picture. Who got my son's baby picture? I said, that's not your son. She said, that's his son. No, why am I just now hearing about this? I called her and I asked if I could see the baby, and she said yes.
Mr. Kidd claims that Ms. Rawlings is manipulative and is lying about Mr. Kidd being the father.
Ms. Rawlings, you begin to let Ms. Jenkins...
Mr. Kidd can't see the moments that he's missing. At least his mom will be able to have them just in case.
And I completely understand. It's truly a beautiful sentiment. You know Mr. Kidd is not your child's biological father.
It's a manipulation tactic.
As long as you were giving her what she wanted, it was okay.
Ms. Rawlings claims that the other guy is definitely the father, but Mr. Kidd's mother steps in and shares a lot more details and evidence.
Rawlings, did the other guy ever acknowledge that he could be the father?
Yes, he did, because he was the one that actually told me to get a test. He actually reached back out to me because he had some other situations going on. Like, are you sure the other guy is your child's father? Because he looks like me.
So the other guy thinks Nathaniel looks like him too?
Favors his daughter.
The court has called upon a doctor to evaluate the truth of Mr. Kidd's medical issue.
Hi, Dr. Gator.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining. We have spoken with Mr. Kidd about a medical issue. What is your assessment?
There's two separate issues here. There was an issue about Rh blood incompatibility,
Yeah.
but that really doesn't have anything to do with the ability to father. He had a separate issue, which was a childhood infection. So if the infection is appropriately treated, fertility rates are normal.
So you're saying that this condition not necessarily preclude him being able to father a child?
Only a small percentage of males will go on to have infertility.
Small percentage.
Correct.
After having heard all the information, Judge Lake wants to share the DNA results now.
I think I've heard enough. I'm ready for the results. In the case of Kidd versus Rawlings, when it comes to Nathaniel, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Kidd, you are the father.
Miss
And Mr. Wilson.
Wildest betrayals revealed on Paternity Court. Mr. Johnson claims that for the past 18 years, Mrs. Carr has led him on an emotional roller coaster, denying or confirming his paternity of her daughter.
Mr. Johnson, you say the defendant, Mrs. Carr, has been playing an emotional DNA game with you over her daughter's paternity for the past 18 years. You've brought her to court to finally end this game and prove you are not her daughter's biological father. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
Mrs. Carr, you say that Mr. Johnson has been dodging a DNA test and his responsibilities as a father since the day you told him you were pregnant. You claim the only reason he is denying her is because you are married and will no longer...
Mr. Johnson describes the confusion and emotional turmoil of being told he was the father, which just added to the complexity of this case.
Ms. Carr, you say this is not true, what he's saying.
Your Honor, Mr. Johnson has always acknowledged my daughter, and he has always attempted to be in her
Your
life.
Honor, that's incorrect. Her daughter was first born. Her father came to my house and said that they had a DNA test. I was not the father. He was the father.
The two were not in a formal relationship, but had a brief sexual encounter, with Mr. Johnson helping out at Mrs. Carr's home. After Mrs. Carr informed Mr. Johnson of her pregnancy, he quickly moved away.
We had sex one time.
Okay.
One time. It was a lot of touchy-feely before, and the one time we had sex.
Well, do you agree that you had sex with him just one time?
I agree that we had sex on multiple times. So I was taken to the doctor and later on determined I was pregnant.
Family members were there. It was an emotional day, but she gave me a call. I'm pregnant.
At the time of the birth, Mrs. Carr did not contact Mr. Johnson again, instead pursuing a relationship with her boyfriend, whom she introduced as the potential father. Mr. Johnson thought he was out of the picture.
That you were pregnant. You told Mr. Johnson and you told the boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am. I left that part out. I apologize.
Okay, now this is coming together. So at that point, when the baby was born, you still had your boyfriend, right?
There was no one involved, no one. We had a DNA test within the last 3 years.
Wow.
Mr. Johnson has been active in her life periodically.
Years later, Mr. Johnson had an unexpected encounter with the girl, who ran up to him and called him Daddy in a store. This shocked him and made him question everything.
Like, Daddy? I'm shocked at the moment. Like, what the, wait a minute, Daddy? I'm confused as to why she's calling me Daddy. So I'm asking for a DNA test. Like, no, you can't just say that she's my daughter without me getting a DNA test.
Despite doubts about paternity, Mr. Johnson became more involved in the girl's life, throwing birthday parties and offering support, such as donating plasma for a party.
I started accepting Miss May as my child. I know that I need to get this DNA test based on what they told me in the past. I donated plasma to have Miss May a Hannah Montana birthday party.
How old was Amber at this point?
Court, Miss May, the daughter in question, shares that family members always told her that Mr. Johnson was her father, and she remembers him being involved in her life with fond memories.
I remember that day because he made me stay in the house while all my cousins playing outside.
There was a lot of boys out there. She was the only girl.
And so, when's the last time you saw Mr. Johnson?
Last time I saw Mr. Johnson was the 5th grade summer.
Ms. May, what was your understanding as it related to your paternity? What were you told?
I was told by family members that he was my father, and so I was like, okay, that's my dad. And growing up, my mother had told me that he was a part of my life.
Everyone involved here was affected deeply, and it was time they all got the answers they've been hoping for.
You said, I did abandon you. I take responsibility for my actions, but it's a lot you don't know. And then Amber writes back, well, I'm of age. Please enlighten me, Brandon. And when you reached out, all you wanted was your biological father and the man you know to be your father figure in your life. You wanted them to be at your graduation.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Johnson, if you are her biological father, would you like to go to her graduation?
Gladly.
The results showed what Mr. Johnson had been hoping for. May is his daughter.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Johnson, you are her father. We came here for a beautiful young woman who deserves to know who her biological father is.
While it might take May a while to come to terms with what happened, at least now they know and can finally be a family.
I have counseling and resources for all of you because I want you to figure out how to take the next step. And it won't be easy, but it's gonna be worth it.
The whole thing kicks off with Cook admits she hooked up with another guy just 3 days after being with her husband.
Things are going well.
Okay, well, things are going okay as far as I'm concerned, but Facebook has a whole nother story to tell.
All right.
Miss Cook found out Mr. Edmond was cheating on her through messages from another girl. Feeling hurt, she decided to get back at him by hooking up with his best friend.
That's when I found out we had a fight. She went with some other guy. She comes back to me telling me they didn't even have sex. The baby had went in the egg and everything. When we found out about that, she let me know that there was another man.
During a fight, Miss Cook admitted to Mr. Edmond she slept with another guy around the time Marley was conceived. She spills the tea at their first doctor's appointment, which was wild.
You are Mr. Edmond's sister.
Yes.
What do you have to add?
I just want to add that Megan is a completely homewrecker. Like, you know what I'm saying? She's a hoe.
Mr. Edmond's sister, Miss Dale, had a lot to say about Miss Cook as well.
Sounds like to me, Miss Cook, you've laid it out simply by stating that there is a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, and also, Your Honor, he cheated on me.
Who
Okay.
cares?
I care. We're married. I care that my husband is going to get some more pregnant.
Let's get some order.
Calls Miss Cook a home wrecker. Miss Cook owns up to her mistakes, but doesn't let Mr. Edmond off the hook for his cheating either. She highlights that they both messed up, but reminds everyone there in court to figure out who Marley's dad is.
The bottom line is that's not what brought you here today.
Right. Your Honor, it's another issue we didn't talk about. It's the black and white issue.
Miss Dale brought up a racial issue. She mentioned that during a fight, Miss Cook made a comment about Mr. Edmond's race, saying something along the lines of, "You're black and I'm white."
You are her father.
The episode wraps up with Judge Lake announcing the DNA test results, which confirm that Mr. Edmond is Marley's biological dad. Everyone was happy.
Bang. Judge Lake introduces Mr. Scott, who's here to dodge accusations from multiple women claiming he's their baby daddy. Mr. Scott owns up to 6 kids with 3 women, but says, no way, not number 7 with Ms. Crane. The courtroom's already buzzing, and you just know it's going to get messier before it clears up.
Mr. Scott, you say you are appearing in court today to clear your name. You state many women, including the defendant, have dragged your reputation through the mud, claiming you are the father of their children. You admit to having 6 kids by 3 different women, but state that the defendant is not mother number 4 with child number 7.
Mr. Scott doubts Jaylynn is his, pointing to shady calls and Ms. Crane getting rides from random dudes. Ms. Crane calls him insecure, while the judge wonders if they were ever a real couple. Then, the twist. Mr. Scott was supposedly divorced, but Ms. Crane reveals he was still hanging with his ex-wife. The drama just keeps piling on.
When we're together, her cell phone will ring, she'll walk out the room. She'll leave her cell phone with her best friend. Or like after we spend the night with each other, instead of me taking her home, she'll like walk home and I'll just peep at her and look at her, see what she's doing. And she has other dudes picking her up on her. And she admitted it to me about other dudes picking her up. I don't need to put his name out there.
That's insecurity,
Right.
Your Honor. Insecurity, still a grown man.
Ms. Crane says she was 7 months pregnant when she discovered Mr. Scott was married, thanks to snooping on his phone. She even called his wife, who told her to get an abortion, and hung up. Mr. Scott admits he was with his ex, but says it's no big deal. Spoiler alert, things are about to get even wilder, with tattoos and more accusations.
Your Honor, I was 7 months pregnant. I didn't know where Marcel was. He used my phone one time. He deleted all his calls. So I went back on the internet, back to the research, called all the numbers he called, and found out he was married for 9 years.
That's true, I was married, but I've been divorced December 2009.
No, actually,
She
he
never
was at
did.
the woman's house, and he actually picked up the phone. So the lady was like, who is this calling from Marcel? I said, well, I'm his baby mama, his girlfriend.
Tattoos, lies, and chaos take center stage. Ms. Crane denies knowing about Mr. Scott's other kids, but he's got their names tattooed. He also claims Ms. Crane hid the baby's face during a run-in with his ex's family, which she says was to avoid harassment. And they accuse each other of cheating, like arguing over who ate the last cookie.
And he lied about all of his kids. I didn't know he had no kids.
She lied because I got tattoos all over my body. I got all my kids' names on my neck, on my
That
back.
don't mean nothing.
Everywhere.
Your Honor,
She
I
knew
didn't ask
my
him
kids'
nothing
names.
about no tattoos.
She said it was your brother.
And?
But then come to find it's another dude that's holding the baby. Well, I don't know if she still has it, but what showed me recently that she had it covered up, she has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 2.
No,
in
Your
her
Honor, I
hand.
had one, and that was my ex-boyfriend for 5 years.
Mr. Scott swears he didn't put those hickeys on Ms. Crane, and she claims it doesn't matter because they weren't together then. He says she kept him from doctor visits, while she says she had her reasons. The judge is clearly over it, but they still need to figure out who supported the baby.
And then while she's pregnant, she had hickeys on her neck. And
Your
I didn't
Honor.
give her them hickeys. You know what I mean? And when she was pregnant, she didn't even tell me she was pregnant. I said, well, let me take you to Kaiser Permanente Hospital. She told me to go to the Kaiser Permanente in Lancaster, and she's at the Kaiser Permanente in Palmdale. I take care of all my kids.
And so you're
I have
trying to
6
take
kids.
her to the medical appointment.
Yeah, she wouldn't let me
And
take
she
her.
telling
talking
you
about her
she's
sister
at one branch, you at the other branch.
They argue about who did what for baby Jaylynn. Ms. Crane says Mr. Scott is a part-time dad, showing up once a year. Mr. Scott blames her for keeping him away. The judge steps in like a referee, and just then, a surprise witness enters. With more baby drama,
I got home from work. My son was outside playing.
Job.
He came. He was at the front gate. So he was like, Jalen, come here. Jalen, come here. So I'm like, who's calling my son? He gave my son $1. 5 minutes after talking to me and my son, he took it back. What? Exactly.
I'll be honest with you.
Scott.
I'll be honest with you. She got me confused with another dude because I never did that.
Man,
I never did
oh
that.
my
This is the
God.
only time.
Miss Kalon arrives, claiming Mr. Scott is the father of her baby too. Things get so heated that the judge slams her gavel to keep order. Ms. Crane and Miss Kalon tag team against Mr. Scott, who's left trying to defend himself. The tension is about to explode. The DNA results are in.
He's my daughter's father too. My daughter's 4 months old.
So you claim you also have a child by him, and he's denying paternity?
He wants paternity test. I I haven't.
Yeah, she had no problem.
Nothing.
No, I communicate with her
It's
good. There's no
nothing.
problem with her.
When it comes to 3-year-old Jalen Crane, Mr. Scott, our father. Told you!
Case involved
the craziest, most out there TV drama, then crank it up a notch. We've got Crow versus Reinhardt in a showdown that feels like it's straight out of a reality TV script. Crow is on a mission, dragging Reinhardt to court with a big claim. Her late son is the dad of her super cute kiddo, Thomas. She's all about proving paternity, while Reinhardt seems to think Crow is just drama central, hunting for cash under the guise of connecting Thomas with his dad. And that's just the opening act.
Miss Crow, you have summoned the defendant to court to prove that her deceased son, J.C. Turner, fathered your 2-year-old son, Thomas. You want Thomas to know who his father is, and you say that Ms. Reinhardt has done everything she can to sabotage your efforts.
But wait, it gets spicier. Reinhardt claps back, painting Crow as the queen of tricks, totally denying any chance that her son could be Thomas's dad. She's convinced Crow is on a gold-digging expedition, aiming for those sweet, sweet death benefits. The tension? It's just starting to bubble.
Trying to claim him as her son's father only to get death benefits. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Crow, are you doing this just for the money?
It is more than just the money. I would like help with my son, yes, of course, but my son cannot grow up and meet his father. So he deserves that right to know who his father is.
Then Crow, heart on her sleeve, shares how she's been trying to keep her son's dad's memory alive, making baby Thomas listen to his voice over the phone. It's like one of those moments in movies that make you reach for a box of tissues, except it's real life and there's no background music.
And I would put him on speakerphone so his son could hear his voice.
Okay. And so, Ms. Reinhardt, you don't believe your son is Ms. Crow's child's biological father?
No.
Explain.
For several reasons. In the time period, the time frame she said she was, when she told me she was pregnant, it didn't happen that way.
The drama escalates faster than a rocket, with Reinhardt throwing out wild suspicions about Thomas not being her grandson because of, get this, earlobe shapes and birth timing. She's all about trusting her mom instincts over what the scientists say. It's like we're in a soap opera, but with more earlobe discussions.
All right, continue.
Looking at that picture,
I understand.
my son and I had a very tight relationship, and Jay would tell me everything when nobody else was around. I knew my son inside and out, and I just don't, as a mother, as a grandmother, having 4 babies of my own, my gut tells me this is not my grandson.
Crow takes us down memory lane, recounting the whirlwind romance with Jay, Thomas's supposed dad. It's a story full of passion, quick decisions, and a heartfelt acceptance of Thomas. It's like watching a romance novel unfold, but with more arguments and legal battles.
Had a conversation. From that conversation, we ended up walking to the store. Became inseparable. We, developed, feelings, and it did happen all too fast. He did ask me to be his girlfriend, and we did have unprotected sex as well. There's no doubt in my mind that Jay's the father. I did not sleep with anybody else in that time. To me, there's no other option.
Just when you think you've got a handle on things, the plot thickens. We learn about Jay's battles with his mind, his schizophrenia, and how it led him to see the world in a unique way. Reinhardt waves the flag of doubt, suggesting Jay's judgment was as clear as mud. Crow, standing strong, paints a picture of a love story that's more twisty than a mountain road.
And my son,
I didn't leave him because of that.
And she could have told him that's his baby.
So you're saying he did not have the discernment to even say, I don't believe that's my baby?
No, I've had 8 grandkids, and all 8 of my grandkids favor me. I've got a baby picture. If I take that baby picture, I could put it up against my daughter. I could even put it up against my 18-year-old granddaughter, and we all look like quadruplets.
I have strong genes.
Crow shares the emotional roller coaster of deciding to part ways with Jay for her and her children's well-being. This tale adds a new layer of complexity, showing Crow as a warrior mom on a quest for peace in a storm of drama. It's like an epic saga, but with more legal paperwork and emotional speeches.
She told me no. I said, you didn't take pregnancy. How do you know you're pregnant? I know my body. I know
Well,
what
first
it
of
feels
all,
like.
your hormone levels have to build up to even pass a pregnant test.
Ooh, did you just learn this?
No, I've been knew this. The truth will set you free. Maybe you'll learn if you actually tell the truth.
And so you felt like she was being so descriptive that she was really already pregnant?
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, I've had 4 kids.
Then, a bombshell drops. Crow was the bearer of the sad news of Jay's passing to Reinhardt, highlighting the deep rift and lack of communication between their families. This twist adds a sense of isolation and struggle to Crow's quest for a connection, making the drama even more intense.
At the time we were living together, it was March 2015, I have decided to no longer go any further in the relationship because I have 2 other kids, I'm pregnant, and he's a grown man. He's doing what he wants to do, and I can't stop him. He comes home one night and he's drunk. He left the door wide open. We don't live in the best neighborhood. That was the last straw. I didn't want nothing bad to happen to me or my children or him in my care.
The climax builds with the anticipation of DNA results in the courtroom, and boom.
The percentage of relatedness between Ms. Reinhardt and Thomas Crow is 99.6% you are related. That is your grandchild.
Miss Weir, who claims that after one night of passion with her gay best friend, Mr. Wilson, she ended up pregnant with his child.
You opened your case to prove he is the father because you are tired of raising your son alone. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Wilson, you say the plaintiff is running out of potential father. You say you used a condom and there is no way you are Ayante's father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Ware, you're raising your son alone.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Miss Weir and Mr. Wilson initially met years ago as friends, spending time together through potlucks and shared activities. At the time, Mr. Wilson was dating men, and their friendship had no romantic intention.
So wait, so you all were friends?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And at that time, Mr. Wilson, you were dating men?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you all would come over, hang out, potlucks. So, Mr. Wilson, this was a great friendship for you?
Yes, Your Honor.
That made you such great friends?
We could hang out with each other. We had good conversation. We like mutual things. And plus, I met her in passing because she did hair, my gay best friend.
Things took an unexpected turn when Miss Weir invited Mr. Wilson over for a Netflix and chill session. She made a move on him, and he did not resist, leading to a sexual encounter, which Miss Weir claims it was planned.
Hold on, wait, y'all done switched from the potluck to the potluck.
Yeah.
Let me understand now. When did you start even liking him?
Oh, I liked him from day one. I did. I'm confident about myself. He might think he's gay or whatever. That's why I'm thinking to myself, he think he's gay.
Mr. Wilson said that he used a condom during the encounter and denied being seduced by Miss Weir. He insists that the pregnancy can't be his responsibility, as he doesn't even believe he is Ayante's father.
Basically, after she got me drunk, she kind of started filling up on me and stuff, so.
So, Miss Ware, you had your plan all mapped out?
Yes, ma'am.
You ain't no shame in your game, huh?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you had decided this was gonna be my man.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
no. I didn't want him to be my man. He could still be my friend.
I'm not the father, Your Honor.
Miss Weir confesses that she had been harboring feelings for Mr. Wilson.
A lot of them, Your Honor. She don't even know.
How many? Say it loud and proud. You said you're a confident woman. 3 other men besides Mr. Wilson.
Miss Weir has taken DNA tests with 3 other potential fathers.
So that's 3 men tested.
Yes, Your Honor.
And 3 men determined not to be Ayante's
Your Honor.
biological father. And you say Mr.
Wilson was simply frustrated at this point, stating that despite the tests from the other men, he refuses to be falsely accused of fathering a child that isn't his.
I'm dark-skinned, you know what I'm saying? Ayante is light-skinned.
Your Honor, he looks just like me.
No, I mean...
he could still do what he do. I wouldn't care. But my child, he deserves that much. He needs a father in his life, and that is his father. He needs his father in his life.
The DNA results proved that Mr. Wilson wasn't the father, and that's when Miss Weir burst into tears. There was one more man who could be the father, but sadly, he's already passed away, and this was extremely sad.
Miss Ware, I have to ask you, we now know that there has to be at least another man out there. You've had 4 men tested of the man who's his biological father. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.